Well, hi again. It's week 5 of season 4 of the PDL, and this week we're taking on the tiny Tatsugiri. They have, well, first of all, they got a starter trio with Decidueye, Delphox, and Quaquaval, so that's kind of cool. The rest of their team is Arcanine, Crocodile, Lucario, Vaporeon, Haunter, Cubfu, Chansey, and Spidops. And so, obviously, they have the Fire, Water, Grass core. They have a couple different versions of it, actually. They have some versatile threats in Lucario, especially. But also, Arcanine is somewhat flexible in how it can play. Crocodile is somewhat flexible. They have, like, a decent, well-rounded set of threats. Arcanine is just a really solid Pokemon. Crocodile can get off Intimidate, or it can go for Moxie Boost. Quaquaval can try to Snowball, maybe with support from something like Chansey to be bulky and keep it healthy. Or maybe Haunter could support it in a sort of a fast, disruptive way. They've got a lot of... They got special attacking from Delphox and Haunter. They've just got a lot of useful tools here. And it'll just come down... The matchup will just come down to how they put the pieces together, right? But there's certainly a number of things that they can do with this team that we'll have to watch out for. I also want to zoom in on Cubfu just for a little bit, because I love legendary Pokemon. They've always been one of my favorite parts of the series, and I always feel a little weird about unevolved legendary Pokemon that are completely overshadowed by their evolved forms. Like, Cubfu is a legendary I barely ever think about, and I hope it doesn't do anything good in this matchup because I want to win, but I hope that they're cooking something with it over the season. It's just really cool to see Cubfu on a roster, even though it's in the untiered... Well... Yeah, it is in the untiered slot for good reason. Now, before we get into what we're bringing this week, we do have to address some roster adjustments that I've made. So, obviously, it's been a rough start to the season so far. We're 1-3, and I believe we're at the halfway point now. I am not sure that I'll still be able to make the playoffs, even if I win every set from here. But I definitely think I have to win everything from here to have any chance of making the playoffs. So it was time to shake things up. The roster I had just wasn't working. Again, I don't feel too bad about that. You deliberately build something unorthodox. Sometimes it's unorthodox for a reason. But the pieces were just not fitting together. The team wasn't working in the way that I had thought I wanted it to work in the draft. In hindsight, my draft plan kind of got away from me around the middle rounds, and I built something that didn't quite fit what I originally had in mind and didn't quite fit together as a cohesive unit. I also talked a lot in my draft recap about wanting to use Hisui and Zoroark, but I wasn't using Hisui and Zoroark in the way that I'd had in mind. It wasn't really... The Zoroark mind games that I'd been trying in Reg D at the time and that I'd been thinking about in the draft were not really available in the season as it actually played out, and I was kind of tired of it anyway. I'd moved on from Hisui and Zoroark. My interest in playing a Hisui and Zoroark team sadly didn't hold up over a full season. Lessons from that for the future, no doubt. But also remember, there's limited roster flexibility in this league. I could offer a trade to another coach, and I did consider that. I did look around at some options, but nothing really jumped out at me. I put out a call in the trades channel encouraging people to send me offers, and no one did. It's hard to make coach trades in a league like this, right? And also, I wanted to make changes quickly so that they'd be ready for this week. And so the only Pokemon that I could swap out freely were Zoroark, Noivern, Blissey, and Psyduck. And if I wanted to really shake up my team, probably 3 or 4 of those had to go, right? I actually can only trade 3 in a week, I learned when I reviewed the rules. 6 free agent swaps total, 3 in any 1 week. But in the end, I found a set of 3 that I wanted to make anyway. So, unfortunately, Hisui and Zoroark and Noivern were my 2 A-tier Pokemon, and they were in free agent slots, so they were prime candidates to move out if I wanted to change things. Just moving out Blissey or Psyduck would be, tinkering at the edges of my team, but not really shake things up in the way that I wanted. Plus, Zoroark and Noivern just weren't working. I've talked about Zoroark already, but Noivern, being a fast Tailwind setter is very good, but it's just not that strong afterward. And the doubters in the draft were right. It probably is tiered too high at A. I could see it as like a B tier Pokemon, but yeah, I wasn't getting the value that I wanted there. And Psyduck, I never did anything with Psyduck. I never even brought it to a set, but because of the specific changes that I ended up making here, I wanted something else in this untiered slot. So let's get into that. So I had a few options for what changes to make. And one thing I was thinking was, if my team didn't fit together very coherently, then what I should do was get some kind of established mode. So we're going to say goodbye to these guys, and we're going to wish them Godspeed, and we're going to look at what I could have done. So I wanted pieces that were known to fit together, pieces that could make like a recognized VGC combo that I could build teams around for the rest of the season. Looking at what was available in free agency, I could have done a snow mode with Abomasnow, Satitan, and either Articuno or Frostlass, but not both. So just one of these two, and I would have had to for this to work. I would have had to drop Blissey and get a little creative with the points budget. But I also looked at my upcoming matchups for the rest of the season, and I didn't really see anything where I wanted a snow mode. I didn't really see the vision with this, and so I scrapped the idea pretty quickly. On a similar note, I also quickly scrapped the idea of making a sand mode with Hippowdon, Midday Lycanroc, or Houndstone. Hippowdon and one of these two, but really it would have been Lycanroc. I wasn't that interested in Houndstone. Again, it sort of accomplishes what I want. It is a mode that it is a combo that I can fall back on in different matchups, and Hippowdon kind of fits my bulky core so I can play slow mode sometimes. It brings some more physical bulk to the team, but it also chips at my own team with Sandstream, so that's kind of a double-edged sword. And again, I just didn't really see the vision here. The first option I thought of, and the one that I almost went with before I dug deeper, was to drop Zoroark and Noivern for Iron Jugulus and something else, probably Scizor. Iron Jugulus is still a fast Tailwind setter, especially if I boost it with Booster Energy, but it's also stronger than Noivern. It can play a more active role after it sets up the Tailwind. It gets Snarl and Knockoff and stuff, as well as strong attacks. Scizor also gets Tailwind. It's a kind of a bulkier Tailwind setter. It can be a setup attacker, it can hit hard on the physical side, and of course with its base 130 attack, Technician boosted Bullet Punch, it could help Urshifu and Iron Jugulus deal with Fairy types. So this would not be the get an established core with an obvious mode that flows from it suggestion. This would just be swapping out pieces for stronger pieces. But there are pieces that better fit the original vision that I had in mind. But there was one more idea, and as I looked at my upcoming matchups, I liked this last idea the most, I think. And I think it complements what I already have reasonably well, and it does bring me that established mode that I wanted. So I swapped out Zoroark, Noivern, and Psyduck for Espathra, Sandy Shocks, and Drifloon. And by the way, while Quillfish is still the only Pokemon that I've drafted twice in the PDL, Sandy Shocks is a familiar face returning from my team last season. So I have Pokemon from my Season 2 team and my Season 3 team now on my Season 4 team. The Espathra Sandy Shocks combo goes back to Regulation B. It hasn't seen much play since then, I don't think, but basically you use Gravity on Sandy Shocks to buff the accuracy on Espathra's Hypnosis, and that enables Espathra to set up with Speed Boost, maybe Stored Power, but also it just disrupts the opponent by putting their Pokemon to sleep, and Sandy Shocks can get off attacks. Both these Pokemon are pretty fast, and they have ways to easily boost their speed. And of course, you don't have to use that combo. Sandy Shocks can just be a strong special attacker. Espathra, can try to set up with Calm Mind. It can try to open up holes with Lumina Crash for a special attacker like Sandy Shocks. There's a lot that these Pokemon can do, and I like them in combination with the strong physical attacker that I have in Urshifu. I feel like if I run a mode through these two Pokemon, I can use Urshifu in a more complementary role to fill their weaknesses. It can hit dark types with its fighting coverage, ghost types with its dark coverage. special walls with its physical attacks and can kind of round things out instead of trying to run my offense through Urshifu, as has not been working in a couple of past weeks. So I feel like these guys make my team more dynamic. They give it something to fall back on if I'm not sure how to approach a given matchup. And they can play into the strengths of the team that I have right now. I can also do setup stuff with things like Yuxi and Blissey supporting. Sandy Shocks can run some support moves as well. It gets Eerie Impulse, I'm pretty sure. It gets Metal Sound, Screech. It gets Bulldoze and Mudshot. There's a lot that can be done with these two Pokemon. Like me, of course, is an A-tier Tailwind setter. And so the only Tailwind setter I have left is Drifloon. But honestly, I think for an untiered Pokemon, Drifloon is not too terrible. Base 70 speed is not that bad, especially if I find some creative way to activate Unburden in some week. I don't have as fast a Tailwind setter as I did before, but you know, I don't think I have the worst Tailwind setter in the game here. I mean, it's untiered for a reason, but it might be able to work in some situations. And then it also it gets stuff like Memento, Will-O-Wisp, Destiny Bond, Disable, Haze. It has a number of support options that it can play if it gets a Tailwind up. Does it get Trick Room? Yeah, it can even do Trick Room in Prison, although I don't know why I would choose it for that over Yuxi. You could do Tailwind in Prison, but that seems pretty silly. But the point is it has options. And that's why I haven't revealed my team until now, because I've decided to bring all 3 of the new additions right away in their debut week with the team. And so here it is. And apologies again, I tried to get my opponent's record, but I went through the doc and I went through replays and I got partial information from both of them, but it's hard to track these things right now. I'm sure the staff will be on top of it before the playoffs, but I don't know whether they played their week 4 set. I didn't find any evidence that they did. Anyway, so here's what we've got this week. And again, we're bringing all 3 of the new additions. Unfortunately, my nickname theme for this season only went 13 deep, so Drifloon gets to be shiny instead of having a nickname that fits the theme. But this game plan is kind of built on Espathra and Sandy Shocks. I did think about Hypnosis Gravity stuff this week. In fact, I penciled it into the builder for a while. But I decided I wanted to use Toxic Spike's Quillfish this week. The reason is my opponent has bulky Pokemon like Vaporeon, Chansey, and Arcanine that they might try to switch in and out to stall out my my attack. And without and before Terastallization, they don't have any grounded poison type or any really obvious way to remove entry hazards. So I probably lead with Quillfish and something else in this set, and I try to set up the Toxic Spikes, and then I try to set up with the likes of Calm Mind Espathra and Bulk Up Urshifu. You can see I'm running a bulky Urshifu with Bulk Up and Drain Punch, Terra Fire for stopping Will-O-Wisp from Arcanine, and fire attacks from Delphox. But Urshifu is not my primary option, I think, this set. I mean, I'm not at all reluctant to bring it, but I'm looking to Espathra first. Try to get Calm Mind boosts, Speed boosts, fire off strong stored powers. I went with Terra Psychic because Espathra is not... You know, I haven't run a bulky Espathra anyway. I don't think a Terra type is going to make all that big a difference in terms of taking hits. That's why it has the Focus Sash. Terra Psychic just makes its stored power that little bit stronger. I did consider Terra Fairy, but I went for the single target nuke instead of the stronger spread move. I think that probably gets me more value. Yeah, Quillfish is Terra Grass to cover weaknesses. It's trying to set up Toxic Spikes. I didn't feel strongly about this move. I didn't really think it needed Poison Jab or something this set. So I threw on Acid Spray to soften things up a little more for Espathra and Sandy Shocks. Sandy Shocks is here with a speed boosting set just to be a strong breaker. Throw off attacks right away without needing to set up like Espathra does. Hopefully they can complement each other. Terra Ice to round out its coverage with Terra Blast. Drifloon gives me a Tailwind option. They do have Tailwind on their team from Decidueye, and Decidueye and Drifloon actually have the same base speed. So unless they do something really strange like Scarf, Tailwind, Decidueye, my max speed Drifloon will at worst speed tie with that, and hopefully get my Tailwind up first. And then I just kind of threw on some moves to disrupt their team. Again, I didn't go too heavy on status moves this set because I am trying to poison things. But Will-O-Wisp can burn Lucario. It can disrupt an attempt to finish me off quickly from something like Crocodile or Quaquaval that, might not be as bothered by the toxic spikes if it gets set up. It gives me another option for dealing with things like those. Memento also can slow the opponent's offense and pressure them to switch. And then because I'm relying a fair bit, because I'm leaning on status this week to an extent, Hex just felt like an obvious attacking move to tack on a Drifloon if I get the chance to throw off an attack. Since I'm running Eviolite, Unburden doesn't really do much for me, so I just threw on Aftermath to maybe get some chip on something. And then finally, I was planning to use Venomoth in the last slot because I thought I wanted Rage Powder Redirection this week to help, to make it a little bit easier for Spathra or Urshifu to set up. But I was having trouble fitting Venomoth onto this team. Plus, I already have ways from Drifloon to weaken a target. I have Intimidate on Quillfish. I couldn't figure out what the rest of Venomoth's set would be and how I would slot it into a game plan with this team. I could use Venomoth to set Toxic Spikes, I guess, but if I'm relying on it for redirection, then it might not have an opportunity to set Toxic Spikes, and I thought a bulky Quillfish was a sort of a safer way to do that. So I ended up going with Uxie instead of Venomoth, and we'll see how that goes. Terra Dark Uxie helps it take helps it take hits from things like Crocodile. And it's just dual screens. Should I run Light Clay? This team seems like it could go to longer games. I think I'm going to stick with Leftovers. I think I want to force them to attack Uxie if they want to get rid of it quickly and not just let it heal back up over time. That's the theory behind this item choice. But yeah, I think that's fine. Because I think if Calm Mind Espathra or Bulk Up or Shifu gets going, it doesn't necessarily need the screens after the first few turns anyway. Okay, so yeah, dual screens Uxie. Yawn is, again, not going to work on a poisoned target, but if a target is not poisoned for some reason, then it can force switches and put pressure on my opponent and Mystical Power just to have an attack. But Uxie was very much the last Pokemon I tacked on this team once I decided that I couldn't figure out how to make Venomoth work. So we'll see whether we bring it to a game and what it does if we do. But that's the basic idea. We're trying to win with most likely Espathra, complemented by Sandy Shocks. Urshifu can be in there as a complementary piece or second win con. Quillfish is trying to soften up the opposing team for the attackers to break through. Drifloon is offering offensive support, mainly in the form of Tailwind, and Uxie is here to enable setup a little bit more with dual screens and maybe pressure the opponent with Yawn. I think we're playing today. I don't know what time. I'm going to message my opponent right after I stop recording, but in any case, we'll see you later for the battle. Alright, we're back. And what's this? A replay? Yeah, there were a bunch of disasters trying to record the game live. I forgot to plug in my mic for a while, so the audio was terrible. And even after I plugged it in, the recording failed soon after, and I only got a little bit of footage of Game 1, which is not even worth saving. So I'm going to try to do something new and commentate over a replay. Bear with me as I sort of figure out how to do this. You can also see here that I forgot to change my trainer again for Game 1. Fortunately, I fixed it for the rest of the set. But, that's never a good sign. And on the other hand, the best of 3 tech worked this time. And that's very nice to have from the Showdown developers. So, looking at my opponent's team, they brought Crocodile, Decidueye, Delphox, Lucario, Haunter, and Quaquaval. And so they didn't have the bulky stuff like Vaporeon or Chansey that had motivated me to bring Toxic Spikes. So I thought maybe I won't bring Toxic Spikes Game 1, and maybe I also won't focus my game plan on Espathra, because they brought both Crocodile and Delphox, right? Both of their psychic immunities / resistances. I'm just going to check the recording because, yeah, it's been that kind of evening. Okay, we're good so far. So I decided to move away from that idea, and I brought What did I lead? I think I led Urshifu and Drifloon. Let me see. Yeah. So I thought, if a Spothra isn't the plan, then maybe Urshifu will be the plan. Maybe I can set it up and do something with it. You can see here that I had to drastically shorten Drifloon's nickname. Oh, sorry for that. That's just now. It turns out that the nickname I had, which was "Oh no, I ran out of nicknames in this theme," was way too long. Showdown will let me type it in, but will not let me accept a challenge before I change it. It made my team illegal, which is pretty funny. And because of that, it actually took me a little while to accept this challenge while I gradually shortened Drifloon's name. Anyway, my basic idea here was try to set up Urshifu, and then Drifloon can go for any of its support moves to enable Urshifu, right? Tailwind, Will-O-Wisp, or Memento. And so I believe turn 1 I go for Bulk Up and Tailwind, and I'm anticipating that it's fairly likely that Delphox will Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam, so I Terra Fire Urshifu right away. And I do call that correctly. And Haunter knocks out Drifloon. So I don't get my Tailwind up. But at this point, I'm not too bothered about that. I kind of thought that might, something like that might happen. I knock out the Haunter, and then I decide to go Quillfish, because getting Intimidate off into whatever comes in is probably pretty useful. I guess I didn't talk about what Pokemon I brought in the back. I brought Sandy Shocks. I think I brought Sandy Shocks just to get off strong special attacks, complement Urshifu that way. And I brought Quillfish anyway, despite what I said about the Toxic Spikes, mostly for the Intimidate setup. So now I've called this correctly. I mean, it's not really a call. Quillfish's Intimidate is good into almost anything they could bring in, unless it's a special Lucario. I've gotten an Intimidate off on the Quaquaval, which is the thing I'm most afraid of right now because I've committed to Terra Water Urshifu. Also, I just realized that I said that I bulked up last turn. It might have been nice if I had, but no, I went for Wicked Blow into Haunter. My bad on that. I just played this set a few minutes ago, and I'm forgetting details already. Anyway. So I'm very worried about the Quaquaval now, and I don't have a move to hit it very well with Quillfish, because I, for whatever reason, decided I didn't need Poison Jab, and I went with Acid Spray instead. So what do I do this turn? I think this is where I go for the bulk up, and try to just get off some damage with Quillfish, right? There you go, Crocodile, intimidate my guys. Aqua Step does a lot of damage because of the Fire Terra, and I go bulk up and Liquidation into what turns out to be the Crocodile slot. Nice. That's a 2-hit... Sorry. That's a 2-hit KO if not intimidated. But now I'm worried because Aqua Step is doing way too much to my Urshifu. I can't reliably actually set up on the Quaquaval. The Quaquaval is a threat to Snowball and just run away with this game. So I leaked already that I switched to Sandy Shocks. I think I did that in hope of getting off another Intimidate, and I think I probably detect Urshifu this turn. Let's see. No, I don't. Okay. Wait. Did I go a turn too far? Crocodile. Sorry, I've never commentated over a replay before. Aqua Step. Bulk up. Okay, I skipped this turn. Okay, yeah, right. So I'm switching Sandy Shocks in. Partly, it's actually less for the chance to get off a second Intimidate, and more just that I feel like I need to play aggressively to get back into this game. So I'm hoping that they will focus on getting rid of Urshifu, deprioritize Quillfish, and I can get Sandy Shocks in safely and start firing off attacks earlier than I might have otherwise. In hindsight... That's not a very good play, especially because of the shared ground weakness. At this point, everything I have here is weak to ground. So Crocodile can just spam attacks pretty freely. And it does. Yeah. Urshifu detects around the Aqua Step, and they just get rid of Sandy Shocks. So I should not have been that reckless with Sandy Shocks that game. I do get my second Intimidate here, though. And as I think you saw, Urshifu takes an Aqua Step. Quillfish takes a Stomping Tantrum. I don't know why they didn't double up on Urshifu there. I felt like that was letting me back into the game. And I go for a Drain Punch on... Yeah, Drain Punch and Liquidation. Drain Punch gets Urshifu some health back. And I do it into the Quaquaval because it has more HP left than Crocodile, and because Quillfish can get rid of Crocodile but can't do all that much to Quaquaval. So I figure I'm just climbing further out of the hole this way than if I go about the turn a different way. They then go back to Delphox, and we're down to our last 2 Pokemon, and I swear I tried to pause it there. What am I doing here? I'm just trying to get rid of Quaquaval, and then hoping I can figure out a way to deal with Delphox later. Although at this point, I'm pretty sure I just lose to Delphox. So Delphox gets rid of my Quillfish. Once again, I'm kind of wondering why they didn't double target Urshifu. Maybe they were afraid that I might have Poison Jab. I mean, it is close team sheet. And here I just wasted Power Point because I can. But of course it has Psychic, and Urshifu is gone. So, Game 1 ends as a 1-0, but it feels like it's not that close. It was a rough Game 1, and I need to shake things up, I think, for Game 2. So Game 2, I go back to the Quillfish Espathra idea. I feel like Toxic Spikes could still be useful into stuff like Quaquaval. I mean, I'm worried about Quaquaval setting up and snowballing, right? The chip damage would have helped quite a bit in Game 1 if I'd had it. And with setup Urshifu being a little too easy for them to play around, I think it's time to go back to the Espathra game plan. Or that's what I thought going into this game. So it was back to leading Quillfish and Espathra. Sandy Shock's in the back. And then I thought about putting Urshifu in the back, but I felt like Urshifu had really not been very impressive in Game 1. They'd been very prepared for it. And I might be best off leaving it behind in Game 2, and then hopefully getting it out of their mind before I bring it back in Game 3. And so that was my thought at this point. So I brought Yuxi in the back instead in hope of giving support to a late game attack with Screens and Yawn. So I lead Quillfish Espathra. They lead this time Delphox Decidueye. And Decidueye is a problem because Quillfish doesn't have a very good way to damage it. And of course, it can fire off Spirit Shackle into Espathra, and it's like a reasonably specially bulky Pokemon, I think. This turn, I think I just protect Espathra and go for Toxic Spikes, right? Sticking to the plan. They switch to Quaquaval. Spirit Shackle crit does big damage to Quillfish, but we do get a layer of Toxic Spikes up. Turn 2. What did I do this turn? Oh, yeah, so my stored power is still too weak to be much of a threat to Quaquaval, but I am afraid of it. So I believe I go for Dazzling Gleam from Espathra and Acid Spray from Quillfish to try to soften Quaquaval up. But the Decidueye turns out to have Sucker Punch, which does a lot of damage. Remember, Espathra has a Focus Sash, so they would have narrowly missed out on the KO either way, but Espathra is not taking another hit from anything at this point. Dazzling Gleam does not very much. Quillfish takes a Brave Bird, gets off the Acid Spray. That also doesn't do much, but it does potentially weaken Quaquaval for later. But now I have a serious problem because I have to play around the Sucker Punch, right? And so what do I do here? Do I make another bad aggressive play? I don't remember. Let's see. I protect Espathra, of course. No, okay, I sack Quillfish here. That's right. I sack Quillfish to get Sandy Shocks in. And now, I'm looking to get rid of a threat, but... Right, okay, so I want to get rid of Decidueye so that Espathra can start attacking. But if I attack with Espathra here into Quaquaval, then Espathra can go down to a Sucker Punch before I get rid of Decidueye. So I believe here I go for Calm Mind with Espathra in the hope that it can survive the turn and start attacking when Decidueye is gone. And I Terrastalize Sandy Shocks and go for Terra Blast, which, remember, is Ice type on this team. What else was I going to say about that? Oh, up to this point, the Decidueye has not protected. And given that it's running Sucker Punch, I'm not 100% confident that it has Protect. So this feels like a play that is worth trying. Again, I feel like I need to play aggressively to stay in the game at all. But Terrastalize. Get around the Sucker Punch, get the Calm Mind up. What? I Thunderbolted the Quaquaval. Why did I do that? Wait, the play I just described made so much sense. I was also afraid of the Quaquaval because it boosted speed. No. Espathra's still faster. Why was I afraid of the Quaquaval? And the Terra Ice makes sense either way because I get rid of my weaknesses to grass and water. I can follow that part. Stop the recording and start it again. So much computer trouble today. I think I should have attacked the Decidueye there. I can't. Why did I attack the Quaquaval? I think maybe the Quaquaval was just so in my head after game 1 that I felt like I had to get rid of it right away. Looking back, I really didn't play this set very well. But anyway. Here I have to protect a Spathra again. The Delphox is back, and I go for Terra Blast into Decidueye this time for real, for sure. And there's the Protect. I guess I could have caught them off guard with the Terra Ice, but now that they've seen it, they know it's coming. And here, there's just nothing I can do to save a Spathra. Sandy Shocks also goes down. I thought for a while about what kind of play I could make there. I'm going to switch something out for Yuxi. Was there a specific way to coordinate an attack that could get through? But I didn't see anything. And at this point, we're just playing it out. Yuxi. What does Yuxi do? Yuxi goes for Yawn into Decidueye. And then tries to get off a Mystical Power, but it doesn't even... Yeah, there was no way to win that. This is a game from last week. I was just bluffing that there might be a third game here. But nope, it was a quick 0-2. We fall to 1-4 on the season. In my original live recording, I kind of reflected on that. Okay, one more try to finish this video. Not even any visuals, just talk. I was trying for like the second or third time to reflect on the season so far. Because we've just fallen to 1-4. And I think that means that winning the championship is now out of reach. I don't think it's going to be possible. At best, we can go 500 in a team where, in a season where fewer than half of the teams will make the playoffs. We're still going to play it out from here. Maybe I'll bring some heat in the last 3 weeks. We'll see. But again, you draft an unusual team. Sometimes, probably most of the time, it doesn't work out. And somebody has to lose every set, and somebody always has a bad season. And we're just going to keep going and finish wherever we finish. I do feel not great, and I kind of complained about this in my live commentary that I didn't realize wasn't being recorded. It is unfortunate that I've started making content in what has been by far my worst season so far in this league. If I'd recorded season 2 where I went like 6-2 and got to the semifinals, I'd be looking pretty good right now. But these things happen. There will be more seasons later. There are more weeks to play with some fun sets or something the rest of the way. And that's it. We'll be back next week. See you then.